Welcome to Pixel Therapy, the video game podcast where we look at the games we play through the lens of the player, where what you play is just as important as how you play it, and where emotional intelligence is a critical stat. I'm your co-host, Jamie, pronouns she, they.
And I'm your co-host, Spencer, pronouns they, them.
And no, I didn't almost forget my own name right there.
Sure.
This is Pixel Therapy. Welcome to the podcast, folks. Let's start as we always do with our Patreon shoutouts. It's our special thank you to everyone who subscribed at our Patreon name in the credits tier. So that is a very big, warm, heartfelt thank you to Genevieve, Lindsay, Pim Hatai, CD Mess, Ava, and Alexis, the fucking crew right there. Love you all so much. Thank you for your continued support of our little podcasts. Remember, if you want to get your name in the credits, and why wouldn't you want to do that? You can hop on over to patreon.com/pixeltherapypod, where you can subscribe for free if you just want to stay up to date on all things Pixel Therapy. Or for as little as $2 a month, you can get access to our Patreon exclusive monthly bonus episodes. In the May bonus episode, we talked about Stardew Valley, which we have both recently revisited in light of the 1.6 update.
And it's the game that keeps on giving.
Game that keeps on giving. I've now put over 100 hours into that game at least 3 times.
Same.
And it's a lovely time.
What other games are there? Just kidding.
You don't really need any other ones. But there's also a whole backlog of our bonus episodes on the Patreon that you get access to with that $2. And those stretch, wait for it, all the way back to fall of 2020. Fall of 2020.
Horizon, yeah.
Different time. So we've been doing this.
If you lay them out side by side, it's over 2 miles long.
Sure, yes. I don't know how the audio, I don't know, are we printing them out? I'm gonna stop. We've been doing this podcast for almost 4 years. This September will come up on our 4-year anniversary. It's wild times. Are you sick of me yet?
No.
No, I know. If you're looking for other ways to support this show, I'm not sick of you either, for the record.
Thank you.
Get that out there.
That.
Okay, good. Definitely not sick of you. If you're looking for other ways to support the show, please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. And you can also check out and subscribe to the Pixel Therapy Pod YouTube channel, where you can catch us streaming our Let's Play series, Pixel Therapy Plays. We're currently playing through Tales of Kinzera Zhao, Metroidvania about processing grief. So be sure to visit youtube.com/@pixeltherapypod, like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get notifications every time we go live. And of course, after all of that rigmarole, know that no matter how you choose to engage with us, we appreciate you being here all the same.
We do.
We sure do. All right. It's time to get cozy. It's time to pull up an armchair. Feel free to lie down on the couch. Let's talk about our feelings. Spencer, how are you this fine Sunday afternoon?
Should we tell them our news? I tell them.
I think I know what you're referring to, but go ahead. Either way, surprise me.
It's happening. We're embarking upon that next stage in every relationship. Attending traveling together. Yes.
An extended trip. You're bearing the lead here. We just bought our tickets for PAX West. We're going to be at PAX West this year, 2024. Old Seattle. I'm really excited.
West Coast visit.
I've never done coast to coast, just like Space Ghost. I've never been to a conference before, and you went to your first one earlier this year.
2 months ago, so I'm really just hitting the ground running.
2 in a year. Look at you go. I'm excited. I'm excited both for the conference and we're booking a 1 room, 2 beds. Very exciting. We'll either be like more bonded by the time we come out of it, or we won't have a podcast anymore. Like right at the cusp of our 4-year anniversary, we will be celebrating by going to PAX and either forging this friendship for eternity or never speaking to each other again. There's no in between. I've decided.
No, there's none. But I'm really excited. I think we manifested some intentions at the beginning of the year, as we typically do, and one of those was going to a con. And so I'm really excited for us to embark on this adventure together. I think most primarily I want us to have fun, but I think a secondary goal would be nice to connect with other I don't know, creators seems so intense of a word,
Other
but, like,
content creators,
other
hashtag content
content
creators.
creators,
Yeah.
yeah,
Do we need
and
business cards for
just
this thing?
oh my god, that was a mistake I made at GDC. I did not have any business cards, and everyone
Okay.
had business cards, so we probably should. Good call.
I can't just
We have
hand out
time.
our album art sticker that we still have, like,
Oh, we should
200
bring
of.
some of those too.
Yeah, we can bring some of those. Okay, live planning
Ah!
happening here on the
Yeah.
air right now. You're all
Yeah, so
bearing
we'll
witness.
we'll keep you posted on that adventure, but, and if you're gonna be at PAX West, let us know.
Yeah, let
You
us
know,
know.
we're
Tell
on
us.
Twitter, we're on email just hit us up.
You know, email, have you heard of it? I know it's this
Yeah.
fresh new thing that the kids are
Ancient
using.
communication
Pixeltherapypod
tool.
at gmail.com. Ever heard of it? Mhm.
Us.
You can definitely email us. You can try to social media us, but
Yes,
we
with
hate it.
mixed success, I'm sure.
Yeah, we hate social media.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry.
scary.
That's why we're still so tiny. Um,
Yeah,
anyway, should we talk about some video games?
let's.
Let's do it. Let's talk about a video game, a specific video game today. We're going to be talking about CryptMaster, which you and I have both played.
Mhm, mhm.
CryptMaster released on PC on May 4th of this year. It was made by developers Paul Hart and Lee Williams. Like, not even a studio name, just Paul
Yeah,
Hart and Lee Williams. And they did have a small number of other contributors, contractors, stuff like that. But, like, it's just their name on the tin, which I just think is really cool. The
mhm.
game focuses on the titular Cryptmaster, a ghostly entity that awakes the player controlled team of 4 dead, now undead, heroes from their crypt miles below the city and leads them on a journey up. But the standard, or the standout, not the standard, the standout feature of the game has been the gameplay. From the game's Steam page, it says, "Say anything in this bizarre dungeon adventure where words control everything. Fill in the blanks with text or voice to uncover lost abilities, embark on strange quests, and solve mind bending riddles." The game has received overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam and currently holds a 79 on OpenCritic. Spencer, I'd love to kick us off by asking you, how much have you played of CryptMaster? What are you playing it? Well, you'd have to be playing it on
Yeah,
PC, but are you trying to deck this one? Uh,
yeah,
and what are your high level thoughts of the game?
yeah. I attempted to deck it like I do everything else, and then Jamie very, um, aptly was
Spencer's like, I'm
like
having trouble installing this on my Steam
yeah,
Deck, and I'm like, well, here's the thing about the
you're
game:
like,
it's
"It's a
all
typing
text entry.
game."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I dusted off my gaming PC, sat down at my desk, and booted it up. I gotta say, like, aesthetically, and gameplay, I fucking love this game. Anyway, sorry. I've played about 10 hours so far.
Okay.
I've learned that I'm terrible at riddles.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. This game will
I'm
teach you
bad at
that, if
them.
nothing else.
But it's basically like Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing meets Laurie Anderson's To the Moon VR installation, if anyone knows what I'm talking about. But it's like this
Okay.
3D modeled, covered with hand-drawn black and white illustrations, and you're walking around and, every interaction, you have one word, um, text entry to facilitate the next thing. And we'll get more into that. Sorry, I jumped ahead, but I played about 10 hours.
All good.
I would say I'm roughly halfway through the game, from what I understand of kind of the arc of heading towards the surface. I just had a rap battle with a
The Pied
bard
Piper,
who with the
basically,
Pied
yeah.
Piper, yeah.
Yeah.
A one-word rap battle. Um, and yeah, I'm loving it. The voice acting is incredible. The Crypt Master is my favorite, like, chaotic, neutral, potentially evil villain, but, like, he's cool. He plays cards with me, so how can I hate him?
Yeah.
And I love the team's, social media presence, like, especially their Twitter. They, like, tweet as the Crypt Master, and it's just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, it's really good.
I love everything about this game. So yeah, anyway, you go. How far are you? What are you playing it on? What's going on?
Yeah, so I'm playing it at my desk as well. The game does have the ability for you to, as it kind of said in the description. So it's a typing game primarily, but you can turn the settings so that it's voice activated, so that you can talk at it rather than type. if whether that's an accessibility issue or just how you prefer to interact with the game. I did not experiment with that at all. Did you?
No, I didn't. That is I'm glad that exists though, especially in
Yeah.
some of the battles where it's very like what's the
Yeah.
word? Time what
It's real-time strategy.
real-time strategy, right.
But the game
I
also has an
shouting
option for
would
you
be
to
good.
turn it to turn-based. So I do
Yeah.
think from an accessibility perspective, especially considering how few people made the game, and granted, I'm
Yes.
sure there's other types of accessibility that I'm not thinking about when I say this, but I did
Mhm.
appreciate that the game has options for, typing entry or voice entry, and it has an option for real-time strategy where like everything's happening in real time when you're in combat, so you're typing or talking in real time to make your actions, or you can have it be turn-based so that you have more time to enter prompts. I
Yeah,
thought was cool and
yeah,
a good
agreed.
way to like change the difficulty of the game or just make it more accessible if you need any of those options. But anyway, I'm playing at my desk on a PC primarily. I
Yeah.
did go, I think I mentioned on the podcast, maybe it was on the Stardew Valley one, that I've gone a little sicko mode with my Steam Deck because I don't like playing a
Yeah,
handheld
there
device.
are
Or like
yeah,
I both I both don't like sitting at
they've
my
evolved.
yeah, I've evolved. I don't like sitting at my PC to play a game because I just associate a PC with work. I don't like the
Mhm,
way I'm sitting. I don't like being ostracized
mhm,
in my office when I would prefer to be in my living room where it's cozy.
real.
Um, so I just have an aversion to playing on PC generally. And then I got the Steam Deck being like, oh, this is going to open up the world of PC gaming for me. But then I also found that
Yeah.
I struggle to stay engaged with a handheld game, which is, we're
Mm.
very polar opposites that way because I think
Yeah.
you prefer to have like the screen like 2
Yeah,
inches away from
same.
your nose.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I was struggling even to engage with my Steam Deck because I just so rarely want to play something handheld. But then I discovered the Steam Deck dock, which is a little bit of a tongue twister. And I found that I can basically hook my Steam Deck up to my TV like a dock Nintendo Switch. I can connect
Mhm.
my PlayStation 5 controller to it. I can also, and this is what I did for CryptMaster, there were times when I was playing CryptMaster by streaming it from my PC
Oh
in the
my.
office to the Steam Deck, playing it on in the living room, playing it on the TV with a Bluetooth mouse and keyboard
Oh
in my
my.
recliner chair. And it
Wow.
worked. And it worked.
That's
So
amazing.
so sometimes I played it like that and sometimes I played it back in the office. But I did play it mouse and keyboard, sadly for me, which is not my favorite way to play a game. I have beat the game. It took me about 20 hours, which is a little longer
Okay.
than the how long to beat estimate, but I think lines
Mhm.
up with, where you're saying you're at. That is about halfway through the game. My high level thoughts are that I really, really enjoyed this game for about 2/3 of it, and then I
Mm.
started to feel like it got a little repetitive and long in the
Mm.
tooth. And I still think overall my impression of it is quite high, but definitely by the time I was clocking in at the end, I was a little tired of it. I feel like
Yeah.
it needed maybe one less chapter than it
Mhm.
had. If the
Mhm.
game had ended shortly after where you're at right now, I think
Mhm.
I would be like 10 out of 10, no
Perfect.
notes. I love
Yeah.
this. And it
Yeah.
was really kind of after I got past that Pied Piper section and realized that, oh, there are like 2 more meaty ass chapters of this
Yeah.
game that are requiring really basically a lot of what I'd already done in the previous 2 meaty chapters. It started to be a little like, okay, okay,
Yeah.
I feel like I've done this, and we can get more into, like, the specifics of that, but I do think, like, overall, I really like the game. I think it's super impressive. Um, I wish it had been, like, maybe anywhere from a third to half as long as it
Yeah.
currently is,
Mhm.
and I think if that had been the case, I wouldn't have any complaints at all.
Yeah.
But, yeah, let's get into it a bit. So I definitely want to make sure that we're being really clear about how the input of this game works, especially with the word stuff, because
Yes.
that is the whole way that you interact with the game. This is an RPG, and basically it's a dungeon crawling RPG. Like, absolutely. You're moving around with the directional arrows. Um, and you're going on quests, you're finding chests and opening things, you're answering
Mhm.
riddles, you're interacting with NPCs, you're getting into combat, always one enemy at a time. You're moving through a like surprisingly large and kind of confusing at times map
Mhm.
of the world. um, but everything, the way you engage with like literally everything, boils down to text entry. um, your characters' names are their health bars. So when the game begins, you as the player are controlling these four heroes that the Cryptmaster has awoken from their crypts, and each of them have a name that is most of their names are 3 letters long. They start as Joro, who's like kind of your warrior character, and he has 4 letters in his name. So that means he can take 4 hits, or he can take 4 points of damage before he dies. You have
Scrabble
Sin.
tile style.
Yeah, Scrabble tile style. You have Sin, who's the assassin. She's only got 3 letters in her name to start. Maz is your bard, so he's kind of like he's a healer. He buffs the other players mostly. He doesn't have a lot of direct damage that he deals, but also 3 letters. And then you have Nyx, who's like your mage, basically.
Yes.
Also 3 letters. She's a sea witch, though, so they kind of put an interesting spin on it.
I love her. Like one of her spells is like salmon, and it's she just salmon fall.
She just throws, and that continues throughout the game. Like she's just like throwing sea creatures at your enemies, and they like hit them and do damage. So that's pretty cool. Or her entry move, which is zap. So when you get into a fight, you are actually, rather than like, going through a little menu, selecting what move you want to do, pressing a certain button to do a move, you're literally just typing the name of the skill that you want to use. All the characters start with one base skill that doesn't cost any souls to cast it. So souls essentially function as like your mana pool or whatever. You want to call it your stamina, whatever. It's that resource that you have to use higher level skills. So you each get one off the bat that doesn't use any souls, but is pretty like weak. So like Joro starts with hit, and it's just a one hit of damage against an enemy. And you literally have to type hit, H-I-T, if you want him to hit. And then after he hits, a little timer, he'll be on cooldown. His little timer goes down. You have to wait for that to end, and then you can hit. You can type hit again. Sin has jab, I think, is her starting one. Maz has yell, which resets Joro's timer, so you could hit again more quickly. And Nyx starts with zap, which I referenced before. So very short, quick attacks, right? But then, it's kind of hard to describe, but you start with, you've got your player's image, you've got their little name, your team down at the bottom of the screen, and then you have blank slots, kind of hangman style, of a word to fill in. So you come across an enemy, you get in a fight with them. Hilariously, the enemy's name is also their health bar. So, and some of their names are like ridiculous. It's just like Buzzbee, just so it can be like, it's got like 6 E's, just so it can be like really long to give them a lot of health or something like that. But so you fight them, you kill them. When they die, you get to pick a letter from their name to like guess, basically.
Yes.
When you pick that letter, it goes through all of the open words that you have at the bottom. Each character will have a word that they're working on. Again, kind of hangman style. And so say you pick an E, anywhere an E appears in the 4 words that are down at the bottom of the screen for your 4 heroes, an E will fill in. Right?
Like Wheel of Fortune.
Exactly.
Is that the one with the...
Yeah, I think so, right? Yeah. They spin a wheel, they guess the things, right? So it fills in the E. And then you go on and you keep getting letters and trying to fill in. And at any point, you can take a guess at what you think the word is and just type it. And if it's actually what the word is, then that will unlock, sometimes it unlocks a skill for that character. And sometimes it just unlocks a memory of the past. Because kind of the storyline is that the 4 heroes, they were dead. Their brains have been like eaten through by maggots and shit. So they don't remember anything about their lives. So you're slowly piecing their memories back together, piecing back together their memory of like how to even like be heroes and fight, and what skills that they have access to.
I also love that, like, the fact that we're all zombies basically kind of explains why we can only speak in one word. Like statements. Like I kind of love that part. Like it makes sense.
And like the game has nice, really fun little touches. Like, all your characters, they look undead too. They're kind of like falling apart in their images at the bottom of the screen. The art of the character art is really fucking good. It's like very distinct, and again in that black and white that you mentioned before. But they do things like, they'll have little bits of voice dialogue for the zombie characters. So like my favorite is Maz is a bard, right? So he tries to like sing his little things, and one of the moves you get pretty early in the game for him is called soothe, and it's basically a heal. Like You use that to heal the other characters. And when you type soothe, he goes, soothe, but he's like, it's like all raspy. And he's like dead. And it's like so quiet and understated. And also while you're walking around, they'll just suddenly be like, like they're just like making zombie noises. So there's all these little touches to remind you that they're dead. Or like when you hit with your, like they say the name of the thing when you type it. So it's supposed to be like you're typing it, they're saying it while they do it because their brain is so rotted out that they're just like hit, jab, like zap. Like, it just adds like such a great layer of character to them. But also, if you're walking around and you type something in and maybe it's not the word that they say, or maybe you're just responding to something in the environment. Like one time I saw a chicken and I typed chicken. The Cryptmaster will respond to what you're typing because the idea is that you're saying these things out loud. And he's like, chicken? Why would you say chicken right now? Or like one time I said shit and it like made a noise like a fart. And he's like, oh, isn't that lovely? Like, so, and the amount of like prompts that they are responsive to is so fucking impressive. Like the Cryptmaster has so much dialogue written and recorded to the point where it actually became a thing with the game. People thought that they had used AI to both like to voice the Cryptmaster, and the game developers had to come out and be like, no, we didn't. We just like wrote a shit ton of dialogue for him. And actually Lee Williams, one of the two developers, voices the Cryptmaster. They just wrote a bunch of lines and recorded a bunch of lines. Kind of imagining the breadth of what people could. Yes. Yeah. It's just that alone is like so fucking impressive. But anyway, so that's the main what's the word? The core mechanic of the game is that you're gaining letters, and that kind of functions like, there's no XP, there is leveling up, but it's like it basically, if you guess enough words for a specific character, they'll level up, and what happens is you get to add a letter to their name, which increases their health bar essentially. But they also turn that into an opportunity for comedy because it's like, Joro, I added a K to his name, and so now he's Jorok. And the Cryptmaster responds as like, Jorok? Like, says the name that I've typed in, which again is why people are like, AI. He's like, Jorok? He's like, what a stupid name. I'm not going to call you that. And he ends up doing that with all the characters because they're not going to have him, record a million lines of dialogue.
That's my one complaint about the Cryptmaster. It's Pride Month, Cryptmaster. It's not very respectful of you to disrespect my hero's chosen names.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
But it's hilarious.
But yeah, so that's how you level up the characters, and then they give you other things, fun things to engage with in the world. So you can find a chest that turns into a little mini game where the Cryptmaster, again, you're idiots, you're brainless, you're undead. He pulls something out of the chest and he'll make a little comment on it, but then you have, I think, like 4 or 5 questions you can ask him. Basically, again, all text entry in the game is one word at a time. So maybe you'll type recall and he'll recall a memory that he might have about what this item is that gives you some sort of clue. You can tell him to feel it. You can tell him to look at it. You can ask him to taste it or eat it, for very comedic results most of the time because most of the items are not edible. And once you've run through your clue opportunities, then you need to guess what the thing is. If you guess it correctly, basically the word will appear at the top of the screen, and all of the letters in the word will become letters that fill in at the words that you're guessing down at the bottom. If you don't guess it correctly, you never find out what the item is. It just goes away. I did appreciate that there's a setting you can turn on where basically every time you guess incorrectly, it will like drop a letter into the word. So it kind of helps you out. Oh yeah, I definitely turned that on too because I kept missing out on things in chess. There's also skulls that you can find around the world which give you riddles, which you alluded to earlier, saying like, oh, I learned I'm bad at riddles at this game. Like they give you legit, like, I don't know, like Sphinx-esque riddles. Some of them I'd heard before,
like,
but most of them I had not.
Like,
go ahead.
What word gets shorter the more letters you add to it? I was like, I don't fucking know. The answer is short because you add more letters to it to make it shorter, and it's shorter than short. Uh.
Yep.
So yeah, there was like real ass riddles, and I was like, "Fuck, I am not smart."
Yeah. Sometimes I was not smart, but then when you actually figure them out, you feel pretty fucking
I'm a
smart.
genius.
And those work really similarly to the chests as well. So it's not, that chest, you're not getting, say there's a ring in the item. There might be things in the chest that are pretty typical that you would find in a chest in an RPG like that, but you're not actually getting, if you find a shield, you're not now getting a shield to use. You're getting the letters from the word shield applied to the current words that you're trying to figure out. And the same goes with the riddle answer. Once you lock that in, and if it's correct, then all the letters in that word will filter down into your words that you're trying to guess to help you potentially guess things quicker. They also have a mini game built around fishing, which I thought it's you're literally fishing for letters. So you try to catch a fish, and then you to reel it in, you have to select one of the letters from its name, and then it'll apply that letter to the words that you're trying to guess. I think those are all the main ways that you get letters, right? From combat, from skulls and chests, and from fishing.
Yeah.
And
you can get
go ahead. No, go ahead.
There's a little card game, which you initiate with NPCs that have, if they have a card floating over them, you type the word whatever, and the card game is called whatever, and it pops up. And at least I remember I played around with the Cryptmaster, and I won some letters at the end of the game.
Okay.
He was like, "Here, since we played together, I'll throw you some letters," and he gave me some letters at the end of that round. But again, the card game itself, it's like you have these monster cards, like cards with pictures of creatures on them, and each of those creatures have names. And at the bottom of your screen, kind of like Scrabble style, you have like a deck of individual letters, and you can select 2 tiles that like you have this viewport that focuses on 2 tiles at a time,
Two
and so you
adjacent,
pick
two
2
adjacent
adjacent tiles,
Mhm.
and you pick those letters, and the letters that you pick will apply to each of the cards in your hand. And so you're basically, and each letter that, like, if there's a monster named Pock and a monster named Mac, and you pick an O and a K, you'll get like 2 hits on Pock and 1 hit on Mac from the O and the K's present in their names, and then you'll hit your opponent 3 times for each of those letters. And then once you've selected enough letters to fill the name completely on that monster card, you not only get your hits, you also get a special effect created by that card. So for example, one card might say like add 3 letters to your deck, or another might say deal 2 extra damage. And so you're just continuously trying to fill in the letters of those names and get your opponent's point health HP basically down to 0. So that was a mechanic too for unlocking letters, and was also just like a fun little, I liked all the inventiveness around how can we apply typing or letters into creating different interactions.
Yeah, no, they really leaned into the idea that this is a word game, and then applied that in every place. Um, Aside from letters, the other thing that you're consistently trying to gather are souls to fill your soul stone, which, as we mentioned, is it's like your mana pool. It's how you cast higher level skills. Now, I said you get those first 4 skills, and those don't cost anything, but any skill beyond that, you are paying 1 soul for it per letter in the word. And so the game definitely corresponds to longer words tend to be more powerful actions, but then they're going to cost you more soul to spend. I'm trying to remember, like, eventually for Nyx, I unlocked one called Shark Fin, and that literally drops a fucking shark on the enemy that you're fighting against and knocks them back. Does quite a bit of damage and knocks them back. But that costs, whatever. I'm not going to be Shark Sharkfin.
Like
that costs
8 or 9. Yeah.
8 souls to cast. So you fill that soul stone both by answering riddles, which if you answer a riddle correctly from one of the skulls, you get 60 souls to put into your soul stone. Or if you do like I did and turn on the settings so that you can ask the CRYPTMASTER to answer a riddle if it's too tough for your tiny little brain. Which again, like just more settings that you can turn on to increase or decrease like the game I think is like super I'll just say accessible in terms of like, yeah, if you're an idiot, you can still play this. Like if you're anyway, if you're like me and you're like, you definitely will get stuck on some of these riddles and you don't want to miss out on things. There's still stuff you can turn on so that you're not totally losing out. But anyway, you can turn that setting on and the CRYPTMASTER will answer the riddle for you if you can't figure it out. And you'll get 30 souls out of that. So it's and all the letters still from the word. So it kind of like reduces a little bit of your gains, but you still get something out of it.
I definitely had to turn on turn-based mode because like a guy is coming at you in real time swinging his sword and I keep misspelling like
oh my
murder.
God. Yeah. This really put my typing skills to the test. Yeah, misspelling murder. Like the game doesn't really show you if you've accidentally dropped an extra letter in somewhere, and so sometimes it can be like I'm just hitting the button. It's like not doing anything. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, oh, okay, I keep accidentally like putting an S at the beginning of this word because of the way that I'm typing it in, and so yeah, that. But I did like the franticness of the like how that added to like
it's fun.
the franticness. By the end of the game, I was a little like. Especially, you're bumping into enemies who, they introduce things like armor that you have to break through with certain moves, or you can't take out more letters of the person's name. Some enemies will carry a shield that blocks specific letters. So if you use, if they have a shield and it has an F on it, you can't use any skills against them that have the letter F. They'll block it. There's some enemies where using a certain letter will make them more difficult. So it tells you right when you come up to them, it's like, oh, if you use the letter A, this guy's going to get bigger and tougher. So you have to try to avoid the letter A, and then you forget that the letter A is in the word cleave, and you type cleave, and all of a sudden the enemy's twice the size, and there's all these more letters to take out, and you're like, fuck! So they do a lot of interesting stuff there too to keep the combat fresh. But yeah, definitely by the end of the game, when you have, 20 different moves for each character, and you can always open a menu to see the list of words that you have attached to a character, but it definitely got overwhelming as the game went on. And you fill out that book for each of the characters. There's a lot of words to fill in for each character. There's got to be at least 50, I think, for each character. And it just got tough to even remember in combat. Like, what do I need to do in this situation? And trying to reference all of that.
While I open my thesaurus and look at my available vocabulary. I mean, it's like the more I think about it, the more I'm just really impressed and floored by the level of interaction and immersion that this game asks of you. Like, it is engaging you physically, mentally. Like, you're going to come out of this with better typing skills, improved memory, a broader vocabulary, like, a stretched logic mind from figuring out all these riddles. Like, it really is engaging so many senses in a way that, like, I'm just, like, not used to. Like, I feel like I'm learning something coming out of this. Like, it almost reminds me of, Before Your Eyes, like, that was a game controlled by blinks, and it was just engaging my body in a way that I'd never thought about with a game, and I feel like this game does some of that too. Like, it's really stretching. It's like walking and chewing gum at the same time with this game. It's like you can't rest easy just leaning back with your controller. Like, you've gotta be, like, fully in it, locked in. CRYPTMASTER.
Yeah, no, it definitely, like, exercises a different gaming muscle for sure, and I really appreciate the game for all of that creativity that it brought, and, like, all the different ways that they're engaging around the wordplay and how you're going to use that mechanic. I feel like they got super fucking creative with it, and then, even doing things like they do interesting things with the way they think about okay, like one of the first like major goals or quests that you have in the world is that you need to you've gotten to the rat kingdom and you need to get past a security guard to get up to see the Pied Piper guy who's like the king of the rats basically, right? And to get past the security guard, you first need to, he'll only let royalty through. So you need to go get crowns for all of your characters so that they'll be perceived as royalty. Well, there just so happen to be crypts of at least 4 old dead kings in the area. And so you're going to go get their crowns. You're going to go basically grave rob their crowns out of their crypts. But each of them have a door that has a special password that you have to figure out first by learning things about them and then guessing the password. And then when you get to the crypts, they're there and they're also undead and they don't want to give you their crowns, so they are giving you riddles, so you have to answer in order to get, and then if you get the riddle right, then they'll give you the crown. It's like, it's, even though you're fighting enemies along the way, like that could have been like a boss fight or just something more straightforward, and again they're finding ways to incorporate a word game, incorporating riddles. Like you said, when you finally get up to the Pied Piper, you're getting him to agree to let you pass by helping him write his rap song and coming up with fun words to insert into the rap. And he will write a whole line of the rap song based around the word that you're suggesting for the rap. And I don't know, I at least a couple of times I gave him a few different words because I didn't like the line that he wrote. And I'm just, I don't know how far out that stretched. Obviously you're limited by, they want you to give a word that rhymes. And so if you give a word that doesn't rhyme, then they'll be like, that doesn't rhyme. But it's still the library of language that they must have had in the game is incredible. Continues to be really impressive at that point. There's a point later on where you're actually engaging in the closest thing that the game has to boss battles. And the way those work, rather than you trying to actually do damage to the enemy, you're trying to guess this word that's a key part of their you're fighting these gods, and it's the main thing that they're a god of, and you're trying to guess that word. And so you're throwing your moves out, but your moves are just being used to, again, kind of hangman style, fill in letters in their name. And so you're not doing damage to them. They are hitting you and doing damage, but what you're trying to do is just guess enough skills, throw enough skills at them to fill in that word enough so that you can guess what the word is. And all that's happening again in real time. So you're trying to do it quickly because they're doing damage to you as you go, and keeping your team alive. So it's super fucking creative in how it approaches all of that. And none of that is what wore me out by the end of the game. What wore me out is all of the stuff in between, which is that the game puts so many just rooms in front of you to go through and fight enemies. And even though there's a decent variety of enemies, at a certain point, you've encountered all the different ones that you're going to come across. They also, as you get into the 3rd and 4th chapter of the game, they hit really fucking hard, doing 2 letters of damage to you with every hit. And they have fucking 15 letter names with armor and shields, and they have moves where they can heal themselves as you're going, and you're fighting this person for so long, you're constantly dying and depleting your soul stone, because to use any word that's going to actually do any damage to them, you're having to hurl out 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 letter words. Then try to keep yourself healed, which also the better healing spells are all 6, 7, 8 letter words. I just got into this cycle of running out of souls, then having to warp back to an easier part of the game so that I could farm. You can get souls from fish and from finding bugs on the wall. At a certain point in the game, in chapters 3 and 4, the bugs are almost non-existent. You can't find fucking bugs anymore.
Oh, no.
So I'm warping back to the bone houses
in
the rat kingdom and wandering the sewers and the fungus forests trying to get bugs so that I, farm bugs so I can go back. And it just got so grindy. And as much as I love the black and white art style of the game, I started to get so lost because all of the areas look incredibly similar.
Real.
And so, that was where the game started to be like, okay, this is going too long. This is too much. They're asking too much grinding. And I really think if it had let go of that and just let me focus on the quote unquote boss fights and the puzzles, I would have gotten a lot less exhausted. But it continues to it doubles down on what I think, and progressively gets more and more of the, okay, to get to the next point, you're gonna need to go through 6 or 7 of these rooms that have 3 or 4 different exits out of them. You're gonna get totally turned around and lost. You're gonna fight the same group of enemies 6 times. You're gonna run out of souls. And you're just gonna have to do that, like, 7 times to get through all of
Yeah.
this next section and to finish this chapter, and that was where I started to be like, okay," and then I pulled up a guide.
Yeah.
And I was
No,
like, "I'm
that's
tired of
real.
this."
I did have to like, I haven't even gotten to the latter half of the game where the difficulty dial turns up a bit, but, like, I had to pull out a guide, just because, I mean, girl, I need Google Maps just to get down the street to the grocery store, so, like, the fact I'm in these, you know, these rooms, a lot of them look the same, and it's not like there's no compass or like, I get disoriented pretty quickly,
Mhm,
and I sort of thank God for the warping feature, which lets you fast travel to places that you've been,
mhm.
and, like, kind of you can use it I would use it a lot just to reorient myself and be like, "Okay, here's where I started. I'm gonna go left and then right again," and, like, so, yeah, I do think, that was a bit of a challenge for me too, and because I was so just I would get kind of anxious about my level of souls, I would sort of, like, take detours on a path I was going to try to, use my headphones to listen for the, like,
Yeah.
of a
Yeah.
bug on a wall and try to, like, catch it or, like, catch fish, and then be like, "Wait, okay, I've been looking for bugs, like, where am I?"
Yep.
So yeah, I think I agree. If I could strip out one feature that I think might make the rest of the journey a tad bit more enjoyable, it would probably be needing to worry about my soul level because that was kind of just taking me out of the
Mhm.
adventure a bit and making it this collection that I need to cross off my list of like looking just to have enough resources to be able to continue fighting
Yeah.
and stuff. So yeah, that resonates.
Yeah, and I don't know, like yeah, I really don't know, like, I was wondering, is it a skill thing? Like, if I was better at the game or is better like min-maxing which skills are
Mm,
best to use in a given scenario? Would I be taking less damage so I wouldn't be having to use as many souls? Like, is there actually a path to beating these higher level enemies that's more soul efficient that I'm just not figuring out? And yeah, I don't know. Maybe there is. Maybe there's something that people have figured out. But when the bugs started drying up in the latter half of the game, and it was like I watched my soul meter go from like I walked into the 3rd chapter with, like, a maxed out 999 souls, and
damn.
before I had even gotten, like, halfway through the 3rd chapter, I'm, like, down to, like, 500, and then
Oh
watch that to
geez,
continue to
yeah.
dwindle to where I got to the final sections of the game, and I'm literally trying to avoid enemies. I'm trying to, like, hide and skirt around things because I'm running with a casual, like, 100 souls at any
Mhm,
given time, and I'm
mhm.
just like, if I get into too big of a battle, like, I'm gonna chew through these at way too fast a pace
Yeah.
to be able to actually succeed and get out with my life. And the places that you can go to heal yourself, I mean, they give you these altars that you can go, which will fully revive your team and fully heal everybody and create a save point. But they're just, it's got a little bit of a it's not Dark Souls by any stretch, but it doesn't checkpoint you in the world in any real way until you get to the next spot. So when you're working your way through this maze of map sections in between two key spots, you can go back to an altar and heal, but it's gonna respawn all the enemies in between, and then you have to work your way right back through them again.
Mhm.
There's no just, like, warping right back to where you were in the dungeon. You've gotta do it all again. Um,
Yeah,
and until you get to the other side of that stretch of travel, you're not gonna have a warp point.
yeah,
Um, and those altars where you can heal and stuff are just way too few and far between, so you're having to rely on your souls, and it just sucked the fun out of the game for me because as much as I mean, the combat was fun, but it became almost too it was too grindy. That's
mm,
the word for
mm,
it. It just became too grindy at a certain point.
mm. Yeah, I mean, okay, here's what like, the more that we're talking about this, it honestly reminds me of, like, it's not just a typing game, it's like a language game, because, like,
Mhm,
not only are you needing to remember the words that each of your party members know, it's a matter of placing those words in the most effective order.
mhm,
Like, Maz knows a word that will make Sin's next attack do double damage. Or like Nyx knows a word that will reset the cooldown for both Joro and Sin to attack again faster. And so it's not just like remembering to type murder or remembering to type hit. It's remembering to type like fjord and then remembering to type boot, or it's like doing like making sure you say yell and then boot and then fjord and then murder. Like it's like it's like syntax, like putting things in the right order. And you're doing that in a very high stress environment where someone in real time is coming at you and swinging their sword. Like it's like Duolingo under duress. Like you gotta like get in there and do it right and you don't fuck it up or else like. And I was never very good at I don't know. I don't have the brain to like be a polyglot and like know like 3 languages. Like it's like very
Wait, you're gonna
difficult.
have to define poly. I don't even know what that
Oh,
word
it's
means.
just someone who can speak multiple languages.
Oh, okay.
And sorry.
No,
See, my
he was like,
vocabulary
I
is
don't have the
expanding.
brain to be a polyglot. And I'm like, oh, what's that?
Like CRYPTMASTER's already expanding my vocab. No, yeah, it's like I've always struggled with that type of learning of language and keeping things straight and the order of things and all of that. And I think that this game, it's a bit of that. It's like you have to learn the language of the game. And so I think I can see it being very challenging for folks, myself included, because not only am I solving mind-bending riddles, I'm also needing to remember like where I'm at. And even further, it's like by the end of the game, it's like each person knows what, like 30 to 50 words, each
it's like
member of your party.
I feel like the amount of words that you unlock for each person is probably at least 50, but more than half of those are not actual skills that you can
Right,
use.
it's like memories.
So I would say the actual skills that you can use, it's probably in the neighborhood of 20. I didn't count it. And I did look at a guide just to like max out everyone's things at a certain point, just because I wanted to see the breadth of it. Like, I was like, this isn't even so much like I'm trying to remove the challenge. I'm just curious, like, what these players' backstories are. And I know that I don't have the energy to stick with the game long enough to actually guess all of these words. So and like I'd done pretty good. I mean, the first 3 chapters, I got all the words on my own. So I just used a guide for the ones that you get out of the 4th and 5th chapters. So I didn't feel like anyway. I did that just because I wanted to see them. No, and I don't have any like qualms about using a guide. I'm just saying that like I played the game for what it was up to a certain point, and then when I started to get tired of it, I pulled out a guide because I wanted to see what there was to see, especially for the context of having this conversation with you. And I'm estimating. I didn't actually count them. I probably should have, but I want to say each person ends up with approximately 20 skills that they can throw out there. And that's a lot to remember and to synthesize through. And, granted, not everyone's probably unlocking all of those. You definitely, there's portions of the game where you can, in the 2nd chapter, I definitely had to like, I'm going to do this and then this and then this and then this. And that's it. And maybe I could have gotten there with the later chapters if I had been like working with those moves for longer instead of just kind of unlocking them all and then trying to figure out what worked. But I still think it does get pretty demanding. As you approach the end of the game in terms of how much it expects you to be able to synthesize and manage. And like I said, it could be a skill issue, but it was a lot. It was a lot for me.
I mean, 20 words each combinate in 4 various ways of combination. That's like hundreds of potential strings of word combos that you could unleash in battle. Like it's an undertaking.
And it's not even just like, I mean, to some degree you can come up with like, this is my main plan of attack and the order of operations I'm going to do. But then when they're intermixing the enemies where it's like, don't use this letter or it's going to block this letter, that adds a whole new wrinkle.
Yeah.
What else did we like about the game? Like I said, I love that art style, even though it does get tricky with those big maps that they throw at you. I never got bored by the art, but it definitely the different areas they have little touches to make them distinct, but mostly they look the same, especially as you get into those latter chapters of the game, where it's just every room looks the same, but each level has a distinct look to it, if that makes sense. And I thought
Yeah.
that was cool. I
Yeah.
love the character art. I love the way the rats look. Their creepy eyes.
So creepy.
Very creepy. There's like frog enemies in the game. There's quite a plethora of different character enemies in the
Yeah.
game and different people that you meet, and they all have just really distinct looks and style to them, that kind of pencil drawing that everything kind of
Yeah.
feels like it's being, or maybe charcoal with the black and white that
Yeah.
everything feels like it exhibits. I was really
Yeah.
impressed by the voice acting and the amount of voice acting in the game, especially being as small as it is with such a small team.
Oh, yeah. It was a delight every time the Crypt Master spoke. I think
Yes.
I think the chest opening was probably one of my, if not my favorite aspect of the game, where, like, I know we described it a little bit at the beginning of the episode, but it's like he'll open the chest and be like, like it's something flat and round and it feels good to hold. And you're like, okay, taste it. And he'll be like, well, I don't want to do that, but it doesn't really taste like much of anything. And then you'll be like, okay, like, look at it. He'll be like, "You want me to look at it again? I already did that, but okay, like, here's what it looks like." And he'll be like, "Alright, enough of that. What do you think it is?" And you're just like, a coin?" And he's like, "Oh, yes! Delightful! A coin! Yes!" Like, it's just, like, it's, like, really fun interaction, and again, you're just floored by, like, how much thought was put into, like, it really feels like you can say anything and there will be some kind of response to that. And I think even more on the writing, like, even though you're just getting these snippets of memories, like, over time you really get this full picture through unlocking various words that lead to longer memories of these characters, that they were like, that they loved each other and they like were a team for a very long time, and that they really cared about each other and built relationships and came from very different backgrounds and learned to work together. And so it has that through line of, like, the real adventure was the friendships we made along the way. And it's kind of an interesting, like a few episodes back, we talked about In Stars and Time, which meets our group of adventurers at the end of their adventure. And so in this game, it's like you meeting your adventurers after the end of their adventure.
Yeah.
And it's kind of this fun, like, piecing together of, like, who they were, and what they meant to each other. And that was just a bit of fun world building that I really enjoyed too. Just being
Yeah.
like, oh, like, I was able to connect with these zombies.
Yeah. No, and that was another reason why I used the guide to fill in all the words, is because more than even just getting all of the attacks, the skills, I really wanted to see all the bits of narrative that they had about each of the characters. Even though, I mean, so much of it is meant to be tongue in cheek or humorous. I mean, the game is intended to be funny. And I don't know if, like, a lot of the games we talk about on here, we walk away with some sort of, like, really life altering, like, oh, this was the message that I got from this game. And for this game, the therapy in it is just that you're gonna laugh out loud a lot. And you're maybe gonna rethink, like, how you think about language and words a little bit. But, like, mainly the draw of this game and the appeal is the humor. And maybe kind of leaning into a bit of that, like, chaotic neutral, like, chaotic evil, like, side of yourself, and getting there's very few games where I don't think this game is ever you're not the hero. Like, the Cryptmaster is not he's not really a good guy. He's brought these heroes back because basically the dead have been banished to the Undercity. And he wants the dead to rise again and to rule the city above. Like, some pretty selfish, like, and quote unquote bad guy desires there. But it's very rare that I play a game where the game wants me to be the bad guy and it's fun to do. And I actually, like, enjoy leaning into that. Usually I tend to gravitate towards being the hero or being the good person in the game and making decisions that are good guy decisions. But this game makes being kind of bad and neutral fun.
Yeah, like the altars, for example. It's like these altars are where you heal and where you get save checkpoints. And when you come across them, they are inhabited by like this spirit that represents this like benevolent, peaceful goddess. And in order for you as undead to use the altar, you have to desecrate it in some way. And so the Crypt Master will be like, ooh, like desecrate it, like do something. And you can just type the word desecrate and that gets the job done. It's like, okay, we've desecrated it, great. But you can also like, there's all sorts of things you could try. Some of my favorites being like poop or pee. And
Oh
the
my
Crypt
God, I never
Master will
even
be like,
tried any of that.
oh my God, yeah, you can just do all sorts of like commands. Like at first I was like, "Dance. I'll dance on the altar." Like, "Isn't that a form of desecration?" And the crypt master will be like, "No, like, that's not nearly, like, crazy enough. Like, come on, like, do something." So I typed "poop," and you hear, like, a little, like, fart, and the
Yeah.
crypt master's like, "Yes! Amazing! Love it!"
My go-to
And
is smash, and he'd be like,
yeah.
"Yes, smash, smash,
So,
smash."
yeah, you just, like it feels good to be bad in Crypt
Yeah.
Master. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. They made that really fun. And the game just has so much personality.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, I mean, we've belabored the point, but the amount of things that the Curb Master can respond to is truly impressive, and I wish I could call to mind some of the more of the specific lines, but there were so many times I typed something and he would have a comment on it, and I was just like, there's plenty of times where you type something, he's like, "Why would you talk about that?" And it's like, okay, that's
Yeah.
more of like a place, it's just like that
Mhm.
wasn't a word that was in his lexicon. He doesn't have a direct response, but he still has a response. He's still like, "Why are you saying that?"
Yeah.
Um, but then, there's other times where you type something and he does have response. I've also seen videos online of people typing interesting things and then getting a response. I saw someone typed Riz and he was like,
Oh,
Riz? Charisma? He was like, I could
oh
teach
my
you a thing or
god.
two about that. Do you
Oh
know how
my
hard it is to
god.
like stay relevant after being alive for 6,000 years or something like that? And it's just, yeah, I don't know. Very, very fucking funny and creative.
Iconic.
And then all the little, the touches of the zombieification of the people. And, sometimes when I'd be like picking bugs off the wall, and to get a bug off the wall, you have to look at it and its name appears on the screen in big block text, and you have to type in the name to actually collect the bug. And
Mhm.
sometimes when you're typing, the zombies will just say the letters because
Oh,
the
yeah.
whole word isn't out yet. And they're like, "Ar, ar, oh, ar." It would just crack me up every time.
Yeah. It's
Um,
so good.
the music in the game is really good.
Oh, the music is
When we talk
awesome.
about like,
Yeah.
the art style, a lot of the areas, even though they might have a slightly distinct look to the area, a lot of it looks very similar. But what really sets the areas apart is the music. Every space that you walk
Yes.
into, every level on your journey up has its own music style. And
Mhm.
there's even a section, when I mentioned the boss fights with the gods earlier, you have to go to a different island for each of the gods, and each
Mm,
god has like their own
mm,
theme of music when you go there.
mm.
I was really impressed by the diversity of music and the quality of the
Mhm.
music, and I feel like I'm still, like, I have those, like, the little but, like, I can hear some of the
Yeah.
songs in my head from the different areas, um, playing out, so I was, pleasantly surprised by that.
Yeah, like, it was surprisingly rich audio, you, like, hear someone plucking on guitar strings or, like,
Mhm.
it's a really good game to play with headphones,
Oh,
because
yeah.
there's a lot of directional cues around, like, where bugs are, where enemies are walking, or even where you might find, like, there are these little floating slips of paper you can come across that do a little bit, like, they're like these notes that kind of fill in some more
Yep.
information about the world building, and they have this kind of shimmery noise that indicates to you that they're nearby, and yeah, it's just like it's a very rich tapestry of sensory inputs, like, from every direction. Yeah, I forget what I was gonna say. Oh, I guess I just feel like, this is one of those games. I know I said earlier, like, these developers are keeping the craft alive, and I just feel like this is one of those games that really cements for me what makes games so special
Mm.
as a medium of storytelling. It's like it's such a breath of fresh air around how they executed these mechanics, and it just reminds me that there's no end to innovation around what is a game, how do you
Yeah.
interact with a game, what
Mhm.
can fun look like, how can we use our brains and bodies to kind of like create new forms of play. Like it just really drives home for me all of that. Like despite some of the length and challenge critiques, like I feel like this is one of my favorite games to come out this year. I'm just I love it so much. I want more of this, and I'm so impressed that this is a game, brought to life by two people, and two, seeing the Cryptmaster Twitter and seeing them celebrate. Like there was a tweet the other day, like, "Oh my god, like we've passed 200 reviews on Steam. Like this is like such a milestone. Like we're so excited." It's like, yeah, like I love seeing, these independent projects like take off and build on their merits, and get the recognition they deserve. And I just want more people to play this game. Like it's just uh it's a triumph of creativity.
Yeah, I agree with all that 100%. Even being the person who's maybe been a little bit more negative on it because I got to the end and had those critiques in the late
Mhm.
game. I mean, the first 10 to 15 hours that I put into the game, I was absolutely floored with it and was
Yeah.
just enjoying every second that I spent with it. I was laughing when I was playing it on the couch on my fucking banana Steam Deck hookup that I had. My partner was like laughing and like asking questions about different aspects of the game and how it worked and like trying to help me solve the riddles and
Yeah.
it was just great. It was so much fun and I think we said this easily could have felt like a gimmick to have a
Mhm.
mechanic like this in the game, and in fact when I originally read about it I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting like hook."
Mhm.
But had no I had no expectations that that would, like, bear out and actually be so well integrated and so
Yeah.
deeply thought through in terms of how it's implemented. I think it very easily could have felt very shallow,
Yeah.
to just turn this into a word game, but the way they thought about how to make it a word game in every aspect and
Mhm.
incorporate that so thoroughly, really sets it apart. I think your comparison to, uh oh shit, Before Your Eyes? Yeah, Before Your Eyes
Mm.
is an apt one, even though, like, the 2 games are thematically completely different, like,
Mhm.
the idea of someone taking, "Oh, like, what's an interesting way that people could engage with a game?" and then drawing that out to, like, the furthest that they can
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
deepest implementation that they can think of is really cool. So, it makes
Yeah.
me just excited for, yeah, games generally.
Yeah, like, yeah, absolutely. And what you just said about, your partner seeing you play and kind of like helping with riddles or asking questions about the game, like that reminded me too. Like I was watching a few minutes of someone playing this game on a stream, and the way in which the chat was so invested, like people throwing out ideas of how to answer the riddle or throwing out questions to ask when opening a chest, like, it was such an engaging such an engaging game to watch as it is a game to play, and, like, I feel like a game like this, like, would especially considering you have 4, heroes, it's like, I feel like there's a way to have this be, like, a co-op thing because,
Mm,
like, especially solving riddles is something that can be very hard to do on your own. Like, I
yeah.
almost feel like you need, like, a trivia team to play this game, like, it would work really well with a party aspect
Yeah,
too, like, it's just such a there's so many opportunities with this kinda gameplay, and it's just exciting to see.
yeah, yeah. So do you recommend people check out Cryptmaster?
Oh my god, yeah, like, it's just if you want something different and and the aesthetic too, like, it seems like it's gonna be super scary, but it's, like, not, so you kinda feel like a
Yeah.
badass when you play,
The
like
image of the Cryptmaster is kind of creepy and could be a turn off if you just see the logo
Yeah,
and you're like, "Ooh, no, I don't know about that." But really the game is not like there's
yeah.
no there's no the only
He's chill.
tension that he's very chill and the only tension that comes in the game is really in the form of that like combat's frantic stress of trying to type
Yeah,
things in quick enough, which as we said you can disable if you want to and make the game turn based. So it's not a scary game at all, even though it wears those, like, grimdark aesthetics. It's
yeah.
really it couldn't be more opposite than what it kinda presents on the tin.
Totally.
of what it is, which it was a fun surprise too.
Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's 2 thumbs up from us. Definitely check out CRYPTMASTER. Give it a try. You won't regret it. I don't
No.
think. And it's just cool to support such a small team of creatives. And yeah, excited to see where the game goes from here and where Paul Hart and Lee Williams go next.
CRYPTMASTER for Game of the Year.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. You heard it here, not first, probably. I'm sure that's not first. Well, I think time's up for today's session of Pixel Therapy. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope that listening to our thoughts and feelings gave you some thoughts and feelings of your own. If you want more Pixel Therapy, you can come check us out at patreon.com/pixeltherapypod, where you can sign up for free to stay up to date on everything we have going on, including our weekly streaming schedule. Or you can subscribe for as little as $2 a month and snag that sweet monthly bonus episode that we talked about at the beginning. Also, be sure to check out our Let's Play series, Pixel Therapy Plays, which you can find on the Pixel Therapy Pod YouTube channel. And you can subscribe and ring the bell there to get notifications every time we go live on YouTube. And of course, you can also support the show by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts and following us on Twitter at Pixel Therapy Pod. That stuff is just as important, and we do appreciate it just as much.
Finally, we end every episode with a recommended side quest, continuing to focus on sorry, I can't talk today. Platforming, Operation Olive Branch. They are a grassroots collective that amplify Palestinian voices and their GoFundMes. It's an excellent way to provide mutual aid to families who directly can benefit from your aid. Operation Olive Branch. Check it out on Instagram at Operation Olive Branch. You can also visit their collection of links, tinyurl.com/OP Olive Branch. Again, that's tinyurl.com/OP Olive Branch.
Thank you for that side quest, Spencer. That is our show for today. So go forth, run a story mission, level up some stats, say some words to the CRYPTMASTER, see what he says back, and don't forget to hug an NPC every now and then. We'll be back soon with some more Pixel Therapy. Bye-bye.